Welcome, this is Holland Timmins, also known as your friend the connoisseur, and today we'll be talking about Star Wars, or rather analyzing it. Excuse me. In terms of science fiction, the B-movie Forbidden Planet was based on Shakespeare's The Tempest. Star Trek was an extension of Gene Roddenberry's fascination with Forbidden Planet. George Lucas created Star Wars because Star Trek paved the way for it. George Lucas concluded his run on Star Wars by basing Revenge of the Sith on the movie Throne of Blood, which is a samurai retelling of Shakespeare's Macbeth. There are many inspirations for Star Wars. The Sith were a race of insect-like creatures from John Carter of Mars. In the earlier time of the Star Wars galaxy, the Sith were an insect-like race that eventually bred with humans and created the human Sith. Han Solo was a spice smuggler. The spice was used to create a drug with a narcotic effect, much like the spice from Frank Herbert's Dune. The Jedi are an homage to the Jedi, a Japanese costume picture which includes samurai movies. The Jedi can jump large distances, much like John Carter of Mars can. Armor-plated Dr. Doom and the evil galactic dictator Darkseid are said to be the biggest inspirations for the Darth Vader we all know and fear. The robot Hell from Metropolis inspired the look of C-3PO. The Death Star was from a Japanese movie serial called Starman. Commander Cody was a direct reference to Commando Cody, Sky Marshal of the Universe. Star Wars was a game-changer for what was possible to achieve in film, with visual effects. Internationally famous conductor and composer Jay Welch stated, "Star Wars changed the way movies are made a ripple through the entire arts community by creating a new genre in film and a new form of graphic art." Star Wars was later changed to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. It was the story of Luke Skywalker, a farm boy in the middle of nowhere. Luke goes on an incredible galactic journey, tangling with the Sith Lord Darth Vader, finally faces his destiny. According to the filmmakers, the concept of Star Wars was Robin Hood versus the Nazis. Luke was a youthful adventurer who went on a quest to become a knight. He joins a band of merry outlaws and they go out into the galaxy to engage in civil war. Luke and the rebels embody the rebellion of youth against the elder generation. There may be a clue to Luke being Robin Hood because in the book, The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle, the titled protagonist has a shining blue sword. Luke starts off the trilogy with a blue sword. When Luke becomes a Jedi Knight, the color of his lightsaber is green, the classic color of Robin Hood. Darth Vader is a Sith Lord that wears a German World War I helmet, signifying he was a soldier in the previous war known as the Clone Wars. All the Imperial officers look like Nazis. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia Organa wear white, symbolizing purity. Han Solo wears a white shirt covered by a black jacket. This shows that Han is someone who is pure underneath, but has kind of a dark, jaded attitude about life that is covering it. The good guys wear white, and all of the important bad guys in the movie wear black. In the beginning of the movie, C-3PO states he is not good at telling stories. Peter Cushing played Grand Moff Tarkin. Tarkin is a ruthless military officer in the Empire's ranks, who had Darth Vader on a leash since the Death Star was Tarkin's domain. Carrie Fisher had a hard time on the Star Wars set acting like she hated Peter Cushing because she thought he was a perfect gentleman. When Peter Cushing was asked by Christopher Lee what a Grand Moff Tarkin is, Peter Cushing simply replied, "I have no idea." Star Wars Episode 5. Luke meets a mythological archetype in the form of Yoda, a 2-foot frog-like creature who is more than he first appears to be. Lucas stated that Yoda was supposed to be a 2-foot frog who has mystical powers, sage-like advice for the hero on his journey. George Lucas hired Jim Henson Studios to construct Yoda, and Miss Piggy himself, Frank Oz, voices Yoda. George Lucas noted that if he got another Kermit the Frog, he was screwed. Luke gets Jedi training from Yoda. Luke has a vision in a cave that he fights Darth Vader. Luke destroys the Sith Lord, but it is revealed that Luke is Vader. The audience realizes that Luke will become Darth Vader if he kills the Sith. Han Solo, Chewbacca, C-3PO, and Princess Leia are betrayed by Han's old friend Lando Calrissian. There is no malicious intent in the betrayal, but Lando has no choice in the matter. Everyone in the city in the clouds is screwed because the Empire showed up. Luke loses his hand in the duel with Darth Vader and loses the duel. Luke learns the truth of what happened to his father and decides to off himself. Luke survives in classic movie serial fashion. In the end, Lando Calrissian is in the Millennium Falcon wearing Han Solo's outfit, symbolizing that he has become like Han Solo. Star Wars Episode 6. Luke is wearing black and has a robotic hand. Luke is becoming Darth Vader. The final battle of the Galactic Civil War is fought. C-3PO tells stories of their adventures to a thrilled audience of man-eating teddy bears. Luke confronts Vader. Luke has the high ground, but Vader throws his lightsaber at Luke. Luke succumbs to the dark side, but pulls back as soon as he realizes what he is becoming. Luke redeems Darth Vader and gives him a traditional Jedi funeral. Originally, there was a trilogy of 3 movies. The movies covered the hero's journey as explained by Joseph Campbell in The Power of Myth. Joseph Campbell called George Lucas the greatest student he ever had. By 2005, there were 6 in a saga, with the release of the prequels. In the movie, it is revealed that Anakin Skywalker was conceived by the Force. Organisms called midi-chlorians are connecting those sensitive to the Force itself. Midi-chlorians are a take on mitochondria, which are the cell's power producers. They are the sites of cellular respiration and convert energy into forms that are usable by the cell. Midi-chlorians act the same way with the Force. Some cells in some multicellular organisms may, however, lack mitochondria. Just like how Jedi are born with midi-chlorians, while others are not. The same is true for mitochondria. Queen Amidala's ship is based off of an SR-71. Anakin is introduced as a child who wears tan clothes. The child Anakin is pure, but something about his future is clouded by darkness, so he does not wear white. Darth Maul introduced the red dual lightsaber. Darth Maul gains the high ground, and Obi-Wan Kenobi uses the Force to jump over Darth Maul and cut him in 2. Most people think that everything in the prequels is a blue screen or CGI. The truth is that they used a lot of sets and models. The more the prequels went on, the more models and sets that they constructed. Blue screens and CGI were used when there was need of it. The sets and models looked so good, most people think of it as all computer-generated images. In Star Wars Episode 2, the ship in the opening of the movie is based off of a B-52 bomber. C-3PO voices his disgust with the idea of flying in a spaceship. The arrogance of the Jedi is brought up in conversation among some Jedi Masters. Forbidden romance begins between Anakin and Padme. The movie has some symbolic imagery in it. One notable example is a shot of Padme and Anakin being brought out by chariot into a stadium, where a bloodthirsty crowd awaits them to be torn to shreds by wild animals. This is obviously a reference to the Romans feeding Christians to the lions, for the amusement of it. Padme is the only one in the arena who wears white. White, again, is a symbol of purity. Anakin wears brown and black, which symbolizes that Anakin has darkness beginning to consume him. George Lucas is obviously a fan of the Hammer horror movies, because he cast Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. Count Dooku is clearly a Star Wars-style interpretation of Count Dracula. Count Dooku would appear in 3 Star Wars movies and 2 different series, both about the Clone Wars. Star Wars Episode 3. This movie combines the end of Arthurian legend, along with the structure of Macbeth and Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, starring Toshiro Mifune. The Throne of Blood was a Japanese interpretation of Shakespeare's Macbeth. Anakin fills the role of Macbeth, or Washizu, and Padme is Lady Macbeth, or Asajj. Obi-Wan Kenobi is in the beginning Banquo, and at the end is Macduff. Anakin and Obi-Wan are victorious in battle against an enemy army, much like Macbeth and Banquo. Padme tells Anakin she is pregnant, much like Asajj reveals to Washizu. Anakin seeks mystical counsel from Yoda concerning the future, like Macbeth sought counsel from the 3 witches. Anakin gets a promotion for his recent heroism and his relationship with Chancellor Palpatine, just like Macbeth and Washizu got a promotion. Anakin seeks further counsel with the ultimate evil in the galaxy, Palpatine, just as Macbeth sought further counsel with the goddess of witchcraft, Hecate. Palpatine tells the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, a Sith Lord so powerful he could manipulate midi-chlorians to create life. Anakin was conceived by the Force, remember? Anakin wears all black. The dark side is consuming him. To further his power to control the future, Anakin murders younglings, much like Macbeth ordered the deaths of children to consolidate power. Anakin becomes Darth Vader. Anakin and Obi-Wan fight over the fate of the galaxy, much like Macbeth and Macduff fought over the fate of the kingdom. Obi-Wan has the high ground, and Anakin is cut down by his own arrogance. Anakin is vanquished in battle like Macbeth. Padme mysteriously dies, unlike Lady Macbeth and Asajj, who both committed suicide. Clue can be found in Padme's death, because she mysteriously dies while Anakin is dying as well. Anakin's heartbeat stops, then starts again, and Padme is pronounced dead. Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine, tells Darth Vader that Padme is dead, and that Vader had killed her. How would the Emperor know Padme is dead unless the Emperor himself manipulated the midi-chlorians in Padme to bring Anakin back to life? Also, C-3PO states he is starting to get the hang of flying spacecrafts. The Star Wars prequels are really the tale of Camelot. The Jedi Knight Council sits in a circle. All the Jedi reside in the Jedi Temple, like the Great Knights residing in Camelot. Jedi Knights use the Force, which is a mystical energy field. The Jedi are magician knights. The most powerful Jedi ever is born without a father. This is parallel to Merlin, who is the most powerful magician ever and was born without a father. Anakin meets Padme Amidala when she is queen. Padme is representative of Queen Guinevere. Anakin grows up to be a very powerful Jedi Knight. Though it is forbidden for them to do so, Anakin and Padme fall in love. It echoes the forbidden romance of Lancelot and Guinevere. The forbidden romance produces a family. Anakin foresees Padme's death. Through a series of events, Anakin ends up leading an army on an assault on the Jedi Temple to save Padme. Lancelot did the exact same thing to save Guinevere. The temple burns and the Jedi Order falls. Camelot falls. Padme died because she loved Anakin and is put in a boat-like open coffin and is paraded down the street holding Anakin's trinket. Padme is like Elaine of Astolat, who died for her love for Lancelot, and sent down a river in a boat which was found at Camelot, holding a letter meant for Lancelot. Just like Merlin is sealed forever in a tree because of his love for Nimue, Anakin is forever sealed in a robotic suit of armor because of his love for Padme. Many couldn't wait for the last 3 episodes to come out, so that Star Wars could make it as an unparalleled epic. The 7th Star Wars movie came out. Star Wars: The Clone Wars came out in 2008, and it launched an awesome show. The Clone Wars movie is a story arc from Season 1 of the Clone Wars TV show that George Lucas wanted to release as a feature film in theaters. The story arc is not in Season 1 anymore. It is now a film. The movie's plot shows how Ahsoka Tano... Friggin' dogs. Gonna bark all day, little dog here, you're gonna bite. The story arc is not in Season 1 anymore. It is now a film. The movie's plot shows how Ahsoka Tano became the trusted Padawan apprentice to Anakin Skywalker. Star Wars: The Clone Wars movie has the last performance of Christopher Lee playing his character Count Dooku. The film also reintroduced the assassin Asajj Ventress to a wider audience. All was right with the galaxy far, far away, until a Sith Lord came. Disney bought Lucasfilm from George Lucas in 2012, and ditched the hero's journey. Anything considered to be mythological archetype was dropped. Star Wars: The Clone Wars was cancelled. The video game company LucasArts was shut down, and Slave Leia went from being empowering to women to being slut-shamed overnight. Disney started flooding the market with Star Wars on a level George Lucas could only dream of doing. Star Wars was ruined by the same company that corrupted Bill Nye the Science Guy and Marvel Studios. They also bought Indiana Jones. Everybody who made the series of Star Wars movies, the new ones, never read or listened to Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell, again, called George Lucas the greatest student he ever had. Star Wars was full of mythological archetypes while telling the hero's journey. George Lucas said he tried to tell all the old stories, but in new ways. That is how Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith can be the end of Camelot, the story of Macbeth, Throne of Blood, and also be Star Wars. This is very complex writing. George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney in 2012 and gave them the last 3 scripts. Someone at Disney made a really dumb decision and threw away the screenplays. The last 3 movies had to do with microorganisms, the relationship they have with people, as well as the ancient order of the Wills, who were introduced on screen in Star Wars The Clone Wars. George Lucas said that there's more to Star Wars than most people think. Most people would think of Star Wars as laser swords, spaceships, and ray guns. There's significant evidence that nobody at Disney realizes there is more to the original 7 films other than laser swords. Because of this deficiency in the teachings of Joseph Campbell, people got faux wars and not Star Wars. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, aka A New Hope with a half-assed paint job, Rey is established as knowing how to wield a staff, but anybody who knows how to wield a staff or a sword knows that the two are almost nothing alike. Only someone like J.J. Abrams, who has never wielded a staff or a sword, would think that they are interchangeable skill sets. It would have made more sense to have Rey wield a dual-blade lightsaber, since it is something that she is more familiar with. Star Wars Episode 8. Disney is that kid that buys an expensive toy and treats it so badly that the toy is broken. Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson broke Star Wars with The Last Jedi. This is an atrocity of film. The story goes in circles. The humor is forced so that they can attempt to Jedi mind trick the audience from realizing that the plot is just horrible. Rey is still unrelatable for women who desperately try to like her but can't. This might have been considered to be an adequate film if it did not have the name Star Wars. The end of the movie, Star Wars Rogue One, had 30 glorious seconds of Darth Vader wrecking house on rebel scum. Everything else is pretty much forgettable, but Rogue One is the best Disney Star Wars movie because it doesn't suck. Solo is the first Star Wars movie to bomb at the box office. This is probably due to the fact that SJW hacks like Kathleen Kennedy want to ruin Star Wars with a politically correct social justice narrative. The creators at Lucasfilm have become notorious for attacking the fans, or the customers as we like to be called. They began to attack their fans through mainstream media. These are the same fans who are displeased with the current direction of woke Star Wars, made themselves ex-fans due to the treatment they have received. The remaining fans are desperate for Star Wars like a man is desperate for water in the desert. People want that Star Wars feeling so badly that instead of water, they drink the sand. Michael Douglas said in The American President, "People don't drink the sand because they're thirsty. They drink the sand because they don't know the difference." And that is my analysis of Star Wars. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did you learn anything? This is the most in-depth I've ever gone into the Star Wars series. And for right now, it's the last word I have on it. Star Wars was pretty much a very large part of my childhood. Not as big a part as Indiana Jones was, but I still have great respect for Star Wars. I do like Indiana Jones better, but I think anybody who has seen my channel or a lot of my videos knows I like Indiana Jones better than Star Wars. But Star Wars is pretty damn cool, especially from a mythological storytelling perspective. And it was because of Star Wars I found Joseph Campbell and his teachings. So yeah, if you want to know what Star Wars is all about, you can watch all 6 of the original films and the 7th Clone Wars film. And then I would recommend going into the teachings of Joseph Campbell, because then you'll get it. This is the Connoisseur signing off. Your friend Holland Timmins. Take care. Have a nice day.